Welcome to Daily Origins Interview Series, a series where we speak with business owners, trainers, community leaders, and beyond that are currently elevating their community to find their origin. I'm your host, Genevieve Kavanaugh, and today we're speaking with Justine Whalen, the co-founder of Weekday. Welcome, Justine.
Hi, Genevieve. How are you?
I'm so good. I'm glad you're here. Tell everybody who you are and what you do.
So I am, I guess, primarily just a lady that lives in Connecticut. I have two young boys and I am a public defender in New Haven. But I also am co-founder of Weekday, which is low alcohol, fewer calorie wine that my husband and I just launched last month.
Well, congratulations on your launch. I'm so proud of you guys. What is Weekday's origin story?
So my husband Ryan and I have always really loved the tradition of drinking sort of the end of the day wine down, having a glass of wine or a cocktail outside or inside if it's terrible weather, just sort of relaxing at the end of a busy day. But as we got older and certainly as we had kids, we found that we couldn't handle the stress of hangovers, of not knowing how you're going to feel the next day. Any guilt associated with anything we were doing. We just didn't have time for it and we didn't have energy for it. So we started poking around the market. We knew that drinkers were starting to experiment with low and no alcohol brands, but we found a gap in the wine market. We couldn't find anything that was lower alcohol wine. And as a year-round rosé drinker, I was very disappointed by that. So we started looking around and developing the product, and one thing led to another. And before you know it, with COVID, we launched this wine and it was a crazy journey. We're really, really excited, but it's a lot of hard work. So, it sort of snowballed. It definitely started off as just something that we wanted to be able to access, and come to find out other people wanted it as well. So that's why we made it.
Oh, well, it's definitely needed in the market. I know exactly what you're talking about. There's not much. And as an avid rosé drinker, I remember just having a couple of drinks or just one, and you just feel it a little too much on a weekday. So perfect branding, perfect setup to go into your weekday and have like a nice, refreshing drink.
Yeah, thanks. We're hoping that the name says exactly what we are, but we're always looking for ways to tell people what we are and what we're all about and what we stand for. Honestly, it's something that's great during the week, obviously, but I found that I prefer to drink a lower alcohol, lower calorie wine now on Saturday and Sunday as well. I mean, there's just really no time in life for a hangover right now.
Yeah.
So, I'm finding that younger people think that. I'm finding that older people think that, middle of life with kids, waking up to finally start traveling now that the pandemic is getting a little bit more manageable. People that are really health conscious are really interested and involved. Because not only is it a 9% ABV, it's also only 80 calories per glass, which is pretty low given what most wines carry. So, we're just getting a ton of different people who are really, really into it and loving it. And we're really excited.
Yeah. And just out of curiosity, do you know what the typical average of calories per glass in a regular wine is?
At least 100.
Okay.
It depends on the varietal. It depends on whether it's fortified, all of these things that we learned that we never knew anything about. For alcohol content, it's anywhere from like 12% up to sometimes like 19%. And for calories per glass, it's anywhere from like 100 and 110, I believe, up to like 200 per glass.
Wow.
So we really are cutting out a lot of that through our technology.
Yeah. And I think you're right. You're hitting the nail on the head when you talk about the market of what I see in the fitness industry. A lot of instructors would, promote that they're not drinking during January, then it extends to February and even March. I just saw a lot of them just talking about taking back as much alcohol as they could in their diet, and also like the younger generation with athletic brewing and the non-alcoholic beer beverages that are out there. I think they still want to casually or socially drink, but not have to worry about the alcohol content. So it's a really great way to get into that market too.
Yeah, and we certainly want to brand ourselves as fitness friendly, parent friendly, whatever you have going on in your lives. People have so much going on. Like I said, now that the pandemic is becoming more manageable, they're looking to get out. But we're sustainably grown, we're zero added sugar. And we really, we really strive to make sure that you're not missing out on quality. I think people hear like diet wine or low calorie wine or something like that, and they think, oh, that's not going to be good.
Right.
But the response has been amazing. We tasted, I think it was like 35 wines. And like I said, we're just focused right now on rosé. But we tasted 35 rosés before we got to this specific rosé. And the response has been really amazing. People who love wine, who actually care about flavor profiles and things like that, are saying wonderful things. And, I think it is important to point out that we're not just trying to cut calories, not add sugar, cut alcohol, and just whatever you're left with, so be it. Like, we are very focused on making sure that you're not giving up anything on quality as well.
Right. That's awesome. Cause it means you're not like just checking a box of what you thought the market might want just to get like the product out there. You're actually delivering a really great product with all those benefits. What was a wine tasting process like? Tell us about that.
I mean, it was fun. There were some really, really great ones in there. There were some really bad ones in there. And, we obviously, it was kind of interesting because when developing a product like this, you want as many people to give opinions as possible, I think. Certainly not a too many cooks in the kitchen situation, but you also want to make sure that you're hitting a number of different people, age, gender. And it was in the middle of the pandemic. And so we couldn't really congregate with people in the way that we normally would. We had our little safe COVID pod with our families. So we were able to do it that way. And, Ryan would make up cards A, B, C, D. And everyone, would be like, I really love C. Can I have another glass of C? Where's the C at? So, we did blind tastings. We made sure that we were diversifying with the people that we were offering it to get as broad of a range as possible. But again, being that it was in the middle of COVID, we were somewhat limited because of safety issues.
Right. And now that COVID is sort of settling down and things are getting back to a little bit of normal, would you go out to the winery soon and get to experience that part of being an owner?
That is the hope that the next, unfortunately, because our first production run was still like, it was the end of April and things were still really great. We weren't vaccinated. Neither of us could have been there for the production run in Monterey. And the hope is that for the next production run, one of us will be there. We're also starting to expand research and development into different varietals. So we are definitely aiming for a red this fall. We've heard a lot of feedback that people want a red wine in this sort of category. So
Yeah.
we are going to absolutely start on that.
I won't offer you my opinions, but if you do a Cabernet, I won't be too mad.
Yeah. You're not alone.
I'm sure it's one of the most popular. So since you're a public defendant, what made you want to go into the wine business?
Ryan Whalen spearheaded this. I cannot say that I have any plans anytime soon to give up my career. I really love being a lawyer and I love being a public defender. I never really had the entrepreneur bug in me. I would be perfectly fine working in a 9 to 5 or as close to 9 to 5 as possible for the rest of my life. But my husband and co-founder, he can't sleep at night because he wants to think of all the ideas that he can come up with and all of the business plans that he can create. And when he started rolling around with this idea, again, I drink rosé year round. He said, this is what I'm thinking. I couldn't not get involved. It was just too good of an idea that I felt personally invested in. So, I really am dedicated to my career as a lawyer, but I just thought this is, like I said, this is something that I want that isn't available, and I want it to be good, and I want it to be, fun and like branded in the right way. So that's sort of how we sort of eventually came together in this working partnership.
Oh, I think that's a good way to get into it. One person who is the creative go, 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 the other one who
Oh
can kind of
yeah.
be a little more logical and set up. With that said, starting a business, and I've sat on a lot of different forums and webinars, and they talk a lot about, hiring legal representative for when you start any kind of business. Since you are already a lawyer, did that give you an edge of kind of where you, I don't even know how to phrase this question, so I'll have to like re-ask it, but
Fine, I can cut you off right there. No, it did not. And Ryan was very dismayed by that. Every time a legal question came up, it would be, can't you handle this? You're a lawyer. It's like, no, I really can't, because I'm a criminal defense attorney.
yeah.
So, if you want to start talking about money laundering, then we can talk about that. But no, unfortunately, it gave us no edge whatsoever. My expertise and my career for the last 10 years has been in a completely different area of law. Luckily, I did have a lot of connections for legal avenues and people that could advise us in, a startup and sort of that arena that was helpful. But I was flat out on that. I could apply the pretty Instagram filters and
Well, I like that. And I think that's great advice too. So what you say is, if you're starting up a business like this, or I would say product focused business, you would recommend hiring or consulting with a legal.
Yeah, I mean, we felt like, especially in dealing with alcohol restrictions, which are plentiful in every single state and federally, dealing with all of the licensing, we did as much as we could possibly on our own. But at the end of the day, you have to protect yourself. You have to make sure your product is protected. You have to make sure you're doing everything by the book. And we wanted to, of course, we wanted to make sure that we were following all of the rules, that, if hopefully it got successful, there wasn't something that we had done wrong at the outset, because we couldn't speak to someone and get the right advice. And then that ended up being a big problem down the road. So I definitely recommend, if you do have the opportunity, or even if you don't, you make room to talk to someone about what you're doing.
Right. And with the legal restrictions going state to state, you guys are just shipping from online only. Have you been to a warehouse? Is that anything that comes close to you guys, since it is from California?
Yeah, so actually really exciting news on our front. We are, because of the alcohol laws in almost every state, you have to have liquor distributors in order to sell to restaurants, package stores, all of that. We are doing direct to consumer on drinkweekday.com. And I think almost all of the states are covered. There are a few that the permits do not allow us to ship direct to consumer, Rhode Island being one of them, California. But we have recently gotten in with some local Northeast distributors. So we are hoping to make a couple announcements coming up in the coming weeks about where local people will be able to find Weekday on the shelves, and maybe even at a bar. So we're really excited about that.
Oh, that's extremely exciting. I have a little bit of an idea of what you're thinking of, just being with my background in the beer industry. So once you say distributors and direct to consumer, that all just kind of lit up in my mind. So congratulations. That's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's really just about the more people we can get it in front of. Obviously, the website and Instagram is huge for that. But at the end of the day, someone who is going to get a bottle of wine, they want sort of instant gratification, I think. They don't want to order a case of wine and then have to wait a week for it to come. It is being shipped from California. You got to go through all of the security. So we're really, really excited to get the bottle in front of people in person, because I personally think it's such a pretty bottle. Having design the label. So I'm excited that people are going to start seeing it in stores and hopefully at your local watering hole.
Yeah, your packaging is very eye-catching, and that's definitely one of the things that you want to have so beautiful when it comes to products. People will most likely buy something just by the way it looks. And once they see your packaging, they're like, I want, your bottle is good, the shape of it, the logo's great. So the whole thing looks awesome. And I'm sure it's going to look good on a shelf and in a display as well.
Thanks. Yeah, it was a lot of work working on that. Fun, rewarding, but a lot of work.
Did you have any design background experience, or did you just use a program?
Absolutely none. No experience anywhere on anything.
I
Yeah,
love
we
it.
got really good at online programming. It was sort of like put the kids down for a nap and jump into that, and put the kids down for bed, jump into that. Unfortunately, it meant a lot more screen time, which we're trying to cut down on, but it was very rewarding to see the final product.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you.
Thanks.
What could you share with somebody who might just be starting out in this kind of business?
Yeah, so I mean, read as much as you can, talk to people as much as you can. Ryan was amazing in the early days. We had our son, our second son, June 8th, 2020. So, I was on maternity leave. I was taking care of a 2-year-old and a newborn. And obviously he was an amazing help, but in the early research and development phase, it was primarily him. Just cold calling people, just phone calls, like absolutely just saying, hey, how do you make wine that is lower alcohol? How does that happen? What does that look like? And it was astounding the people that were willing to talk to him, that just took the call, set the meeting, connections on LinkedIn, email, whatever it takes to just get in front of someone. I think he maybe thought it was going to be a lot harder to get the information and to make these connections. And people were more than willing to talk to him, happy to have the conversation. So I think, we talk to a lot of our friends now that are sort of in the phase of life. They've built a career and maybe, they have a little bit of room to think, what do I really want to do with my life? Like, what is really going to make me happy? We were talking to a friend of mine who is interested. She's also a lawyer, and she's interested in doing jewelry design. She was like, I really just love gemology, and I really am interested in doing like custom jewelry design. And we were having dinner with her last weekend, and our advice was just start talking to people, just see what it takes. Call someone, email someone, reach out to someone on LinkedIn or Instagram that you like, and just be like, hey, how did you do this? I think that's probably the biggest piece of advice, is even though it seems like insurmountable, just start at the beginning and just see where it goes, pull the thread and see what comes of it.
No, that's really great advice. Even with Daily Origin, that's not something I've thought of doing, because you just think that it's these secrets that they have and they've been so successful and they're never going to let them go. So it's nice to hear that in this kind of industry, especially with wine being so competitive, every celebrity has a tequila or a wine to sell. It's nice to see that people are still being community-like and wanting to educate others, because I think the stronger you are with other people, you'll be stronger together.
Yeah, people have been wonderful. I mean, we're trying our best to keep up with the big guys, and who knows if we'll be able to be, but it's a wine that is in a bottle that someone can purchase right now. So for us, that's a success.
Yeah, that's amazing. What is the most important business lesson that you've learned thus far?
The problems will come no matter what. Nothing will go perfectly no matter what. And you sort of just have to take it. It's so cliche. You have to take it one problem at a time and one step at a time. If you try to look, I do it. I know I'm guilty of it. If I try to look, even a month from now, how are we going to get, this rosé on a shelf? How are we going to get to the point where, we have a strong Instagram following? How am I going to get to the point where I can fill a content calendar for social? If you think that far ahead, it's too much to comprehend. Whereas if you go a lot smaller okay, this permit needs this paperwork filled out and filed in order to get to the next step after that. So let's sit down with that piece of paper and fill it out. And just do that over and over and over again. Each single problem, tackling it without trying too hard to look at the big picture. You have to keep the big picture in mind, obviously, excuse me, but that will drive you to the point where you don't feel like you can actually do it.
Right. It's so funny you say that. I have a daily book that gives either quotes or advice, and it's really great. It's something that almost everybody I see on Instagram has posted at least once in their lifetime. And yesterday was all about the process, and how if you drill it down to seconds and worry about the process that you need to do right then and there, you think the big picture eventually, but you still need to work on the process. And I just thought it was such great advice, and I'm glad that you said the same thing.
Yeah, and I think Ryan and I work really well together because inevitably one of us is in this tailspin of, oh my God, there's no way I'm going to be able to get all of this done and, have a full-time job and make sure the kids are still breathing and fed. And, I got to get this post on social by the end of that. And the other one is sort of in a better place of like, it's going to happen. Just like maybe sit down and pick out a photo.
Yeah.
And go from there. And then, the next week, it's a total flip of who is in that tailspin. So, taking a deep breath and just looking at what's right in front of you and what needs to get accomplished on that particular day and not thinking about tomorrow. It's just too much to think about tomorrow.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, you literally just answered my next question, which was how do you manage your full-time schedule, being a mom and running a business all at once?
Sometimes I really do not know how we are standing at the end of the day, and we're barely standing. We fall into bed. It's definitely, like I said before, I am first and foremost a public defender, a lawyer. That is my job. That is my career. So this is a lot of nap time, grinding on the weekends, and after the kids go to bed, logging on. Which is, it's tough. There's not a lot of room left for me or for him or for us. We have to really be diligent about creating that because life is starting to take up so much of the hours in the week and in the day. We do our best to make sure that there is still downtime for us, to make sure that, we don't lose sight of what is really important. And, family time and all of that. Thankfully, our kids don't let us be on our phones very long. They're active little boys. So it's good. We're not just, sitting around on our phones and on social and on emails, and, they keep us in check for sure.
Good. I think that's really great because there is so many times that you can just get sucked in, and an hour later you're just buried in your computer or your phone. And I know I'm guilty of it all the time. I try, and even just having a dog, he'll hit my phone out of my hand. I'm like, okay, it's time to put the phone down.
Yep. Same.
Oh, well, what can we expect from Weekday coming up in the future?
So we are hoping, rosé season is in full swing. I'm loving this weather. I am loving that people are out and about again and going to the beach and hopefully traveling. So we are going to push hard on our rosé for the rest of the season. And like I said, we're really going to be focusing on a red for the fall. We definitely want to get a white out there, because so many people love it. We've actually gotten some feedback about some bubbles. So we're going to work on next steps for all of these varietals and, cool collaborations, hopefully, just like with Dio and any other of our friends that we feel is a good fit. And we'll just see what else comes our way.
Oh, amazing. Where can everybody find your wines right now?
Right now, you can go to drinkweekday.com for direct to consumer shipping to your front door. It is flat rate shipping, so order as many bottles as you want for flat rate shipping, and be on the lookout at Weekday Wines on Instagram. We will announce where you can find us locally, stores, restaurants, things like that, if you just don't want to deal with the shipping process, but we do try to make it as smooth as possible. So go check us out.
Amazing. I'll be sure to link everything at the bottom of this interview and on our website as well. Thank you so much for joining us, to Justine. Send our love to Ryan, and we appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Genevieve. Thanks so much for having me.